If you want to get the most out of your time in the gym, boost your progress, and ultimately be the fittest version of yourself, regardless of where you are at in your fitness journey, you are going to want to stay until the end of this video because we got some great information talking all about beginner fitness and health. We're going to dive into topics such as if online fitness videos are even useful for yourself, what you should do if the only workout you know how to do is running, and even along the lines of how to progress reps and sets in your workouts for beginners. So please make sure, if you haven't already, you are also going to want to like this video and subscribe to the channel, as we help individuals of all abilities improve their overall health and knowledge of the gym regardless of their current abilities in life. Go ahead and also comment down below too for this video podcast where you are currently at in your fitness journey. I'd love to know, are you just starting out? Are you a few months into your journey? Are you a few years into your journey but you're still learning the ropes? Go ahead, drop a comment, let me know where you are at. So the first thing that we can look at today that will greatly help you out is what you can do if the only workout you know how to do is running. Now, there's a lot of people when they first start out, they don't know how to use any of the weight equipment. They don't know how to use anything at the gym, and they see people running online and they think that, okay, that looks good, that looks solid, that looks like something that I can easily do and easily follow for myself, so I'm just gonna go out for a run. Well, you might be setting yourself up short because there are a lot of other great exercises that you can be doing in your workout routine that will not only help your running, but help to spice up the workouts, because as we all know, running can be extremely boring if you're just doing that day in and day out. So what else can you do, right? So the first thing that we should do is actually assess our goals. I wrote assess your goals, which I guess you could access them and see what you want to do, but really you're going to assess your goals. And there's a few different goals that you can look at, but realistically, getting better strength, getting better endurance, and better flexibility, these are all kind of general goals that a lot of individuals have. You know, they want to build a little bit more muscle, or they want to be able to run a little bit farther. All these different things are incredibly common and usually what it boils down to at the end. Now, this isn't to say that somebody doesn't want to just improve balance. You know, I work with a lot of seniors who just really want to get better balance. That could be an aspect of fitness too. So you're going to really want to dive into exactly what aspect of fitness that you are looking for your fitness journey. And then simply realize the options. You know, this might just be where we're a little bit ignorant on all the different great things that we can do, but there are seriously so many different ways that you can challenge your body for those respective aspects of fitness, whether it's strength, endurance, and flexibility. And a few examples of those can even be for strength, you know, you can lift some weights. For strength, you can also do some body weight exercises. There's resistance bands that you can use that aren't maybe as intimidating and are also extremely cheap and portable. I have a whole video on my channel going over the difference between resistance bands and free weights and which would be better for you. You should go check that out. And there's also some really great strength classes as well. I know a lot of people who like the classes where you're all together and you're kind of lifting weights on a cadence or a certain, I should say, song pattern. So it's like a certain beat and you're like boom, 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 and you're lifting to that cadence. Super fun, super intuitive. Anyone of any ability can just go drop in on any of those classes, and ultimately you're going to have a super fun time building some strength. And if you are curious about any of these two, I do have lots of videos showing you various different weight exercise routines for beginners on my channel. You can go find those as well. But ultimately, if you do need some help, there's lots of other great resources online that you can check out. But my channel is just one of many, of course. When it comes to endurance, there are so many other things as well. As you'll see, this is a reoccurring theme, right? There's a lot of different ways to challenge aspects of fitness. So you could try some walking, right? Obviously, you already know that running is a great option to improve your endurance, but that might beat you up all the time. That might be hard on your joints, and you might want to do some more lower impact options as well. So walking is great. Biking and swimming are also very, very low impact. And personally, one of my favorite ways to get in some good cardio is actually by doing some high repetition weight circuits. Now, you might be asking, what in the world does this mean? So, usually when it comes to strength, we are going to be lifting weights that are relatively heavy for ourselves, right? So, weight where after you do about 10 repetitions, you feel like that's it, I can't do anymore. You might even be lifting even heavier where you can only lift 5 to 3 repetitions and then you can't lift anymore. So a high rep weight circuit workout is essentially where you take weights that are very, very light. Very light to the point where you can do maybe 15, 20, 30 repetitions, and by doing this, it greatly challenges the muscular endurance in your body. And anytime you get closer and closer to muscular endurance, it's going to take a lot more oxygen and a lot more aerobic capacity to be able to do that movement versus just strength is usually an anaerobic activity where you don't need to consume much oxygen during it. If you think about it, a heavy weight set, you can hold your breath the entire time. I wouldn't recommend that. But when you go out for a walk or run, you need to be breathing consistently throughout that movement. Otherwise, your body's going to stop, you're going to fail. And, usually people don't become unconscious where they just get knocked out because they're holding their breath during running or walking. But you see the point. So high rep weights, that's a tongue twister, it's got you there. High repetition weight circuits are incredibly good to maybe build a little bit of muscle, but also to build some endurance and keep your workouts fun, fresh, and a little bit spicy. I really, really enjoy those. When it comes to flexibility, there are so many great stretching routines online, and I personally like teaching a chair yoga class to a lot of seniors. So that is another option too. There's chair yoga, there's regular yoga, there's all kinds of different stretching and flexibility based classes out there. Gymnastics is another example that would actually combine a lot of flexibility and strength and resistance training on top of it, right? You got to be a really well-rounded athlete. I shouldn't even say athlete, well-rounded individual if you are somebody who is trying these things out. And you might think that okay, no, gymnastics, that's only for people who are really athletic. There are really basic gymnastic progressions, right? Doing a pull-up or a simple bar hang, that's body weight control. That's gymnastics, and doing little things like that will improve your flexibility and mobility and strength at the same time. So super good ideas there. And at the end of the day, the most important thing you need to do is just pick a few that you like. Pick a few that you like, do some research on them, find out how to fully do them, maybe get some help if you need it, get some consultation, so talk to a personal trainer if you're something like that, and then try them out. You got to get in the field and you got to start doing some different things. And it's going to be maybe a little bit scary at first, but realizes that we all start somewhere. We all started one day doing different exercises that we were uncomfortable with. And it's through that repetition and time that is built where you truly realize that you are amazing and you can adapt very quickly to anything you put your mind to it. Of course, then once you do them for a long time, you're going to want to keep with them to keep getting better at them, keep getting improved results. But then if you get to a point where you're like, man, I want something else, just go through the list again. Reassess your goals, change for other things that you want to ultimately work on and try out, and just realize that your season of life could be on strength right now. And then in maybe a year, you want to try working up towards a 5K race, right? So that's endurance based. Don't be so stringent on one form of exercise. There are so many different ones out there that you can be trying out. Go ahead and comment down below and let me know which ones that you really enjoy out of this list, or are going to go consider trying if you only know how to do running. I would highly recommend getting some weight training in, because that will help your running, even though it doesn't seem like it. So let's go ahead and keep moving on here. So the next thing that we're going to talk about is very near and dear to my heart, because it directly affects my channel and the information that I create for you guys. And that is if online fitness videos are useful. So with all the garbage floating out there on the internet nowadays, it may seem like there is so much saturated information online, and that everything you see in the fitness and health industry when it comes to workouts and advice is just completely useless. So is this the case when it comes to specific online fitness videos? Well, virtual fitness just in general can involve a few different things. So we're gonna go over a couple of those. The first one being online personal training. Now, online personal training is essentially where you are going to be getting trained by somebody through Zoom, through FaceTime, through Skype, all these different things. And they are going to be either taking you through a workout, or you already know the workout. They're just going to simply watch you and correct your form and correct any technique issues that might be occurring during the thing. The great thing about online personal training is that it is pretty great for motivation, right? You're going to have somebody always there when you are doing it. And this is just for personal training as well, but specifically, online personal training, really good for motivation, because you might not want to go into a gym when you're first starting out. So this can make it a little bit better too, because you're more comfortable. You're in your own home. You're able to basically not succumb to yourself to all those pressures of the people at the gym. I know a lot of people, when they're first starting out, they always look around at the gym and they're like, okay, I see all these big and buff people working out and I'm nowhere near them. Online personal training is great because it can kind of squash some of those worries that you might have about going to the gym. The other cool thing is that it usually is a little bit cheaper than a normal personal trainer. And this is because obviously the person who's the trainer doesn't have to use a bunch of money on gas. They don't have to use a bunch of money on just, I guess, wasting their time in general. And I say wasting time, but going to the gym, doing all these different things, it's all completely cut out. The only time they're doing is the maybe 30 minutes or an hour blocked off on their respective time with you, right? One of the things about this that might not be the best, though, is that there is less space and access to equipment. So to get the best results realistically for fitness and health, you would have all the equipment in the world and all the space in the world to do whatever exercises you want. Obviously, you're limited when you are doing this at home because you don't have all those dumbbells. You might not have a treadmill. You don't have weight machines. Some people might have a little bit, but for the most part, people who are doing online training don't have those things. On top of that, they might not even have a dedicated area that's like a quote-unquote home gym. So they might be very limited on the overall stuff that they can do because of that space, right? We can't go out for a run or go out for a jog if we live in a studio apartment and there's no accessible running routes near us in the city we live in, right? Just an example. So online personal training is great. It's custom, it's tailored to your specific goals. And on the flip side of that, we can also look at YouTube videos, like some of the stuff that I post on my channel, some of the workouts. The great thing about this, and probably the best thing, is that it is completely free. But if it's completely free, is it still useful? Absolutely. Absolutely. It is very, very useful, but these aren't custom tailored to your specific needs. So there might be a movement in a workout that you watch on an online fitness video on YouTube where you can't bend your knee a certain way that they're requesting you to do. And in that case, since you're not getting that custom training, you wouldn't be able to get specific advice about that exact movement, right? The other thing about this too is that you really have to be self-motivated, because unlike online personal training, you are spending money and trying to set up time that you yourself are of course going to be working out with that trainer later. So this really helps with adherence for a lot of people. YouTube videos, you kind of like, okay, they're out there, I can do it whenever. And for a lot of people, they just don't do it whenever. So there's a lot of the same benefits and cons as personal training. Probably the biggest distinction here, though, is that they are free, they are not custom to your specific goals, and they have to be very self-motivated. You need to sit down and essentially force yourself to do these workouts. So of course, can you get results? As I discussed, you absolutely can, but for beginners specifically, the results will come very, very fast whenever you start any type of workout routine that is beyond your current capability levels. So for a lot of beginners who don't want to go to the gym, they don't want to spend a lot of money, this is a really great place to start, right? It can get your feet wet in all the different exercises out there. It can kind of get you attuned to, okay, I really like this type of workout routine, but not so much this workout routine. So I'm going to try to learn more about that workout routine, right? And just a good foot in the door for getting started. The thing about these programs, though, as I mentioned, is that the lack of equipment will hinder progress. And this is assuming that the videos don't use any equipment. And a lot of the videos online, when it comes to YouTube, when it comes to fitness and health, nowadays especially, are usually body weight variations, because that's what a lot of people like, because a lot of people don't have any equipment. But with this kind of ease of doing, the lack of equipment, of course, you aren't going to be able to push, you aren't going to be able to progressively overload your body nearly as well if you had some equipment. So that's kind of one of the big takeaways and one of the big things to consider when looking at this overall. So go ahead and drop a like and subscribe to our channel if you haven't already. We post some awesome, great fitness videos and health videos for beginners and individuals of all abilities. Of course, we got balance workouts, strength workouts, flexibility workouts, chair yoga workouts, all those different things completely free on our channel. And we have even more than that too. You have to go do some digging. But let's go ahead and move into another topic that will really, really help you to boost your strength and hypertrophy or muscle growth at the gym. And this is how you can properly progress your reps and sets when you are starting out. So when you are starting out, it may seem really, really overwhelming when you have a certain weight on the barbell or a certain weight on your machine and you're like, I have no idea what to do, right? There's so many different ways that I can progress this. There's people adding 20 pounds, there's people adding 10 pounds. Should I even add any weight, right? So I'm gonna hopefully break this down for you, looking at it from the lens of a bench press workout. I'm gonna be saying bench press quite a bit, but this can essentially apply for a lot of your big strength movements, like a deadlift, like a squat, like an overhead press, like a barbell row, all these different things, and even machines, right? You could even apply this to machines as well. So when we are looking at strength, what I usually recommend for people is doing what's called a 5x5 program. So when it comes to these, specifically when we're looking at it with a barbell, you're going to start with just the bar on the movement for 5 sets of 5 repetitions. And this may seem very, very light at first, and it usually is very light at first, but remember, we're trying to build motor pattern, we're trying to move and build proper motor skills So then over time, once you build a little bit of muscle, you are going to have that motor pattern built. So when you get to those heavier weights with that bigger muscle, right, you're going to be able to move properly through it, versus if you started out day one lifting very, very heavy and not in proper technique, you're always going to lift with improper technique, which isn't very efficient at all in getting the best strength and hypertrophy or muscle growth results. So starting with the bar, 5 sets of 5, and then what you're gonna do, it's very simple, but it's slow and steady. So you're gonna keep adding 5 pounds on each side every single week, right? And if you're doing a leg-based movement, you can probably bump it up and do about 10 pounds extra on each side every single week. But for upper body, I usually recommend 5 pounds, and this is from the bench press. So let's say you start with the bar, that's 45 pounds. Next week, you are bumping it up, adding 5 pounds on each side, right? So this is going to then be 55 pounds, 55 pounds. And then you're gonna get to a point where you keep adding weight every single week, but maybe you fail a week and you only get 4 sets of 5 repetitions, and then your last set or your 5th set, you only get 4 repetitions, right? So 4 sets of 5 reps, and then your last set, you're only getting 4 repetitions. So that would be technically considered a failure. If this happens for you, then what you would do is decrease the weight by 10%, a small percentage, and then you're gonna build back up again. And essentially, you're gonna repeat this process until you fail multiple weeks and multiple times in a row. And this might not happen for a while. You may be able to really boost your overall results and push this for a long time. But usually after 2 to 3 months is when a lot of people start to notice this taper off. When it comes to strength, right? This is just getting the strongest version of yourself. And strength and muscle mass usually don't go hand in hand, but when you're starting out, you may notice initially you're getting a lot stronger, but you're not building a lot of muscle. And this is because strength comes on very rapidly. Muscle takes a little bit longer to build. So from the looking at of a 100 pounds example, say you started with the bar and then you got all the way up to 100 pounds and then you failed that week. You got 4 sets of 5 repetitions, and then your last set, oh, you tried so hard, but you only got 4 repetitions. So what can you do in this case? You would then, if you were lifting 100 pounds, for example, 10% of that drops you down to 90 pounds. You would then hit 5 sets of 5 for 90 that week, go up to 95 the next week, go up to 100 and try to surpass it again. If you did fail it again, you could maybe try to go back down once again and then taper up one more time. But this could be a point where you actually need a more advanced program to get better. If this happens, you can potentially go to the next thing and try out this program and then maybe go back to a 5x5 program over time. So what you're going to do in this sense is a hypertrophy program. So hypertrophy is building muscle, and you realistically should go through cycles of doing strength and hypertrophy, all these different things, because hypertrophy, building muscle, will help you to be stronger, and being stronger can absolutely help you to build more muscle in the long term. So it's good to be prioritizing the specific aspects of fitness for different times. And for hypertrophy or building muscle, what I would do is start with a weight that is doable for 3 sets of 10. And this isn't a 3 sets of 10 where you get to your 10th repetition and you're like, that was so easy. I could literally do that to infinity, right? Your 10th repetition, you should be getting not like you're going to fail, but somewhat close to failure. So you want to have, maybe 3-4 repetitions left in the tank. You could even get up to 2 repetitions left in the tank. You want to be pushing hard, but you still want to have a few more reps left in you, right? And then Once you get to that weight, you can ask yourself, can you hit that weight and repetition set for 2 consecutive workouts? So if you are doing the 100 pounds example on the bench press for just like the last time, can you lift 3 sets of 10 repetitions, back-to-back workouts for 100 pounds? Yes? Great. What we're going to do in this case is add 2 more repetitions to your next workout. We're going to try 3 sets of 12 repetitions. This may not seem like a lot, but you're adding 6 total more repetitions onto your overall workout. So a little bit more overall workload. And then 2 consecutive workouts. Can you hit it back to back? If you get to that point, add 2 more repetitions. Now you are at 3 sets of 14 repetitions, and what seemed like was small to begin with now is a lot, because you are doing 4 more repetitions from where you started out with. So you started out with 3 sets of 10, now you're doing 3 sets of 14. If you look at that over that entire week, you have 12 more repetitions added to your workout. This is almost an entire another set if you think about it that way. So once you get to that point, you are then going to add some weight. So if you can hit 3 sets of 14 repetitions with that 100 pounds for an example, you're then going to add roughly 5 to 10 pounds, whatever you feel like you want to do, and then decrease back to 3 sets of 10. And the great thing about this, both of these programs, is that they can essentially be run to infinity, but realize that there will become a point where you might not be able to do this right. It's going to become very tough. And you can keep going up and back down and up and back down, but at some point you're going to need to maybe focus on just strength or just hypertrophy. The cool thing about this, though, is that doing strength workouts will build a little bit of muscle, and doing hypertrophy workouts or muscle building workouts will build a little bit of strength. They both work in tandem with each other, and they also can be both done on the same week, which is really, really cool. So if you can recover from it, you can kind of put both of these together. And once you max out your gains as a beginner in the gym for your respective exercises, this is what I would recommend doing, is having maybe one day that's kind of a strength day, and then one day that's kind of a hypertrophy day. So you have 2 days. And then you could maybe, once you get even more advanced, have 2 hypertrophy days, and then even more advanced, 2 strength, 2 hypertrophy for those specific movements. At the end of the day, just get in, push yourself a little bit, and try to keep getting better, and realize it's not going to be a straight line. It's going to be up, down, up, down, up, down, and then a slow trend line getting upward. So go ahead, drop a like if you got some value from that section. We got a lot of information in that, so go ahead and comment down below as well if you have any questions on that as well. So another thing that some people kind of get confused about is what you should do if you are hypermobile, if you are very, very flexible. And some people might even consider this, quote unquote, being double jointed. So what should you do for yourself if you're lifting and you feel like every time I go in, I'm just gonna pop a joint out of my socket because I'm so hypermobile? So hypermobility is where joints have an unusually large range of motion. You can move them through a really, really long overall range. So for my finger, for example, I can only move it back this far. And for some people, they may have hypermobility where they can move it back to where it's almost like an L, like a completely moving it backwards, right? That's not me, of course. One of the things about this, though, that people think is that I have double joints. I'm double jointed. Well, being double jointed or hypermobility is basically just having more flexible joints. And most people, when they have flexible joints or hyperflexible joints, they won't experience any problems. And some people can actually benefit greatly from this. So if you look at some dancers, ballet individuals, or people who are into gymnastics or gymnasts, they usually are extremely hypermobile. They have incredible flexibility and mobility, and they've used this as an advantage to yourself. You know, you don't look at them and think like, oh my gosh, they're gonna pop their shoulder out of their socket. No. And the reason why is because they are incredibly strong with their flexibility, right? You don't see any dancers or ballet individuals or gymnasts with very little muscle. A lot of them are very toned, especially in the legs and shoulder girdle area. And this brings the point that if you are hypermobile, you should be doing some exercise, and you should be doing specific movements that are going to help to strengthen the joints through a long range of motion that's comfortable for you, right? That's comfortable for you. So one of the biggest things about this that is really important is that it will keep your joints stable. The more flexible you are, that means that you could potentially like bend or hyperextend a joint beyond its range of motion. The more strong you are and the more stable you are through that joint, the less chance it's going to have of hyperextending and doing that. So it can kind of bring you back into a more normal range of motion, if that makes sense. Think about a bodybuilder who is really tight and has really bulky muscles. Their range of motion is incredibly compromised because they lack flexibility and they lack that hypermobility. So if you think about it, they did that by working out in a certain way. And it's usually from working out and getting a large amount of muscle mass. And this isn't to say that you can't be super flexible and have a large amount of muscle mass, but if you're not focusing on flexibility and just focusing on lifting, this will 100% be the case. And if you're somebody who's very hypermobile, you probably don't need to be focusing on getting more flexible because you're already naturally very flexible. When it comes to cardio options too, we want to think about maybe some lower impact activities when we're first starting out to not put too much stress on your joints until you do build a foundation and base with that strength training. Once you get your joints kind of under a more stable base and a little bit stronger, you could absolutely implement some more swimming and walking and biking, right? Those are great places to start, but then you might get to a point where you want to do like a recreational sport. You might want to do like soccer or basketball or all these different things that are a little more higher impact. And if you played your cards right and did some of those good strengthening exercises to work your joints, you are going to set yourself up to be able to do all of those and plus more. But swimming, walking, biking, those are really good options to start from. And you might realize that, hey, I don't even really want to run right now. And that's totally okay. And that's totally something that you should find out for yourself. All of these, you need to find movements and workouts that really work for you and that you enjoy. And the last thing isn't necessarily a lifting tip, but it still is a tip that's incredibly useful and should be considered heavily. And that is to make sure you are getting in enough calories and getting enough protein. So a lot of times individuals who are hypermobile, they are usually very skinny. And when you're skinny, this is because you are eating less calories per day than your body burns, usually a lot less. And with this, you are at an increased risk of potentially developing overuse injuries, some tendonitis, simply because you are telling your body, I don't need all of this extra energy and all of this extra protein for building muscle or helping to strengthen my body and joints. You are simply telling your body that right now we're trying to lose weight, right? We're trying to maintain our skinniness simply because that's just what you want to do, right? But with that, there's a cost of potentially increasing the risk of injury and not getting the best results. So to make sure you are recovering and getting your body stronger, getting your joints stronger, getting in enough calories, getting in enough protein, especially if you're female, please, 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 you will not get super bulky, you will not get super fat if you just start eating a little bit more. This isn't like going to a buffet and going hog wild and eating everything under the sun. This is a slow and controlled calorie surplus that will help you to get stronger, which can help you greatly with your hypermobility and keep you lifting for a long period of time without any issues. And one of the other things that I should mention too is that you got to manage your pain too. You got to manage your pain. You don't want to be working out through pain, and finding exercises that won't cause you pain are probably one of the biggest things and the biggest catalyst of options that you can do for yourself. So make sure to consider that at the end of the day. Now, another thing that we can consider too, and that people who are just starting out might look at when they are looking at videos of professional athletes and they see them doing box jumps or different speed drills, and they hear that these are called plyometrics. Now, it sounds fancy, but what in the world are plyometrics really good for? And should you be doing them if you are a beginner? Now, plyometrics are great because they help to build an aspect of fitness called power. Power is incredibly important because what it does is it combines the ability to move something fast, either your body or a weight, and at a heavy load, right? So if you're a powerful athlete, you can move something heavy very, very quickly. And this could be, in this case, your body. Your body, even if you are light, your body still is pretty heavy. It's usually for most people at least 130 pounds, for a lot of men, you're getting probably around 160 to 180 pounds. A lot of women, I think, probably 120 to 150 would be a reasonable weight for most individuals, especially athletes. But regardless, plyometrics are great because they help to build power. And as I mentioned, power can be assessed by the ability to move a weight or your body super heavy and super fastly, right? So the thing about plyometrics though is that you actually don't need any weight. So you're able to produce power by using your own body weight through different things like box jumps, side to side hops where you are jumping as high as you can side to side. Usually this is going to be any type of jumping movement. And this can be really, really good for beginners because a lot of times that extra weight can add some complexity to the movement, which can increase the risk of injury if that beginner is somebody who has not gotten any formal instruction on how to do these specific things. And ultimately though, plyometrics are really, really good on top of building power to build proper movement mechanics. So as I mentioned, this might be from jumping, side to side hops. You're learning how to do different movements properly. So how to jump properly, how to move side to side properly, how to navigate your body and have that proper proprioception, balance, and strength in space, of course. Another aspect of plyometrics too that kind of go overlooked is that you can build those proper movement mechanics, but when you move, you need to be able to land from a box jump. You need to be able to land from a side-to-side hop. And when you are doing these plyometrics, it's a great time to have dedicated focus on avoiding your knees caving in when you're landing, or absorbing the landing more when you're going side to side, or how to simply position your knees and body to land properly for yourself. Now, landing a lot of times when it comes to like basketball or soccer or any type of thing where you're running really fast, jumping, etc., this is usually where a lot of injuries occur because there's such a large eccentric force on the landing portion. And for those of you who don't know, the eccentric force, or basically the lengthening of a muscle, is where usually a lot of injuries occur in sports. That's where the most force is produced, okay? So another thing that plyometrics are really good for and that I'm super keen on is it just makes your workout a little more fun. It makes your workout a little bit more fun. You can add them to cardio circuit routines where maybe you're doing some bench press and then you go do some box jumps. Then you go do some pull-ups and then you go do some side-to-side hops, some plyometrics, right? It can really, really add some spice in your workout, skyrocket your overall, heart rate, of course, and allow you to burn some more calories in a fun manner. But the thing about this, though, is that you don't want to go too fast where your form fails. That's going to be a recipe for disaster because, as we just discussed, you are trying to use this not only to build power, but to build proper movement mechanics, how to land properly, how to just move generally. And if you're going too fast, you're kind of defeating the purpose of all those things. So make sure you're doing it under control. Get some advice and maybe some proper coaching, or you can even look up some videos online. I think I have some videos on box jumps on my channel. I can't remember for sure. But there's a lot of good ones out there. Go ahead and drop this video a like if you learned something new about plyometrics. And let me know down in the comments too if you are going to implement those into your workout routine. Now, speaking of your workout routine, there is a common issue that so many people will do when it comes to bicep curls. And they will literally use every single muscle in their body to do a biceps curl. And this is a huge problem. So what should you do if you notice that you feel it maybe only in your shoulders, maybe you're feeling it in your lower back? Why am I not feeling this just in my biceps? So let's look at this from the lens of a biceps curl. So a biceps curl is what we call an isolation exercise. And this isolation exercise targets mainly your biceps, and then it targets a little bit of your forearm muscles, of course, because you're gripping and you're holding either a dumbbell or a barbell in your hands to do this movement. So those are going to be the main muscle groups that we are trying to target. We're trying to target that, right? It's not full body, which means we're not trying to target your legs. We're not trying to target your shoulders. We're not trying to target your back. We are only trying to target your biceps and your forearm. So if at the end of the day you are lifting so much, or you are lifting in your biceps curl in a specific way where you're feeling it in these other areas, you are doing something greatly wrong. So let's address what in the world is happening here. So your form is suffering, clearly, because if you had perfect form, you wouldn't be feeling it in all these different areas, right? So the form, when it comes down to it, is usually bad or hindered because of too much load or too fast of repetitions. And it's typically a combination of both, but usually people are ego lifting and try to lift way too much weight on the biceps curls than they can do, right? Way too much weight than they can do. So it would make sense, if we think about this logically, we need to cut the weight back a little bit, cut back the speed, and focus on technique, okay? Focus on your technique. And this isn't because, technique is going to greatly reduce your risk of injury. That's something a lot of people will think that, like, okay, just because I have perfect technique, I'm not going to hurt myself. You can still have perfect technique and hurt yourself, but what usually happens when people are having bad technique is they have too much weight and they're doing it too fast. So they're doing it more intensely and more above their current fitness level. When you do that, that does absolutely increase the risk of injury. So focusing on your technique, and understand the purpose of the exercise we are doing, okay? Understand the purpose of the exercise. So if you are doing this in a way that you are feeling your entire body when you're doing biceps curls, you got to realize you're shooting yourself in the foot because you're not getting the purpose of the exercise at all. You're not getting the purpose of the exercise. You're doing like a full body half curl that, sort of works your biceps and leaves your back hurting at the end of the day. So is that really worth it for you? Is that going to be something that's going to boost your biceps long term? Probably not. So if you are somebody who's kind of suffering from this and you're like, I barely feel my biceps, please consider these things. Go ahead and drop a comment down below if you are somebody who's ever experienced this, and let me know your current experiences with biceps curls. I enjoy them, but I've really had to check my ego aside over the years and have had to come to a point where I just basically don't ego lift. And I do a weight that I can do that feels good. I feel the muscle, and that's all I'm trying to do. I'm not trying to impress anyone. I'm not even trying to impress myself. I'm just trying to literally feel the muscle work. So on top of that, the last thing that people will ask me a lot, and this is crucial, so make sure you stay and watch this and listen to this very closely. We're going to talk about gaining skeletal muscle when you're on a cut, and gaining skeletal muscle ultimately when you're losing weight. Okay, so a cut and losing weight, that's kind of a synonymous term. You'll often hear like, I'm cutting. That means you're trying to eat in a calorie deficit to lose weight. So when it comes to gaining skeletal muscle, this is the muscle that is built around your skeleton or your bones, of course, to allow you to do all those different things, your activities of daily living, like walking down the street, getting groceries, but also pushing yourself in the gym, working out hard on squats, etc. So the thing about gaining skeletal muscle is that it is very hard to do on a cut. Very hard to do on a cut or calorie deficit. Basically, right? We need to be in a calorie deficit or eating less calories every single day than we burn to be losing weight. And the reason why is because muscle is highly metabolically active. It's highly metabolically active. So in this sense, we are basically, when we're on a cut, we're trying to not spend as much energy. We're not trying to use energy because from a biological sense, you can think of it as like, okay, my body is starving. I am not getting enough calories in to maintain my weight, so I don't want to be wasting it to build muscle and ultimately cost more energy for my body because I don't have that much energy to spare to keep my internal organs alive. So that's a big thing to consider, right? Muscle is highly metabolically active. This is why the extra calories are so crucial when you're trying to, on the flip side, gain weight, because those extra calories will tell your body, we're good. We don't need to, worry about having famine and not getting enough calories to get our internal organs all the energy they need. So go ahead, build a little bit of muscle. No problem. So who can gain skeletal muscle on a cut? Well, there's a few individuals. New lifters are one of them. So people who are just starting out in the gym, we call them novices, right? Maybe have never touched a weight before. They're going to be somebody who can, be pretty skinny and still not really eat that much. And just because they're providing a new stimulus to their body, they are usually going to boost their overall muscle, right? So they're going to build some muscle, which is really cool when you're first starting out, because this can give you some really good overall motivation that you might need. You see some good results very quickly. Very overweight individuals, I should have write that too, had a mistake there, apologize, but very overweight individuals, not underweight, very overweight individuals are going to be able to gain skeletal muscle when they're losing weight. And the interesting thing about this too is that individuals who are very, very overweight actually have a large percentage of muscle already, even if they don't lift any weights at all, just because they're getting in those extra calories. So their body is in muscle protein synthesis, where they are producing more muscle mass overall for those different activities, but they aren't lifting. They aren't lifting. So when they start to lose a little bit of weight, they're going to preserve a lot of that muscle, and they can in fact still build a little bit of muscle too, which I think is very, very empowering for individuals who are overweight. Of course, we know people who are on steroids, right? Somebody who is, taking exogenous hormones like testosterone, all these other things. I'm not super in depth on all the different drugs out there because I don't use any, and I don't ever recommend people to use them unless they're recommended by your doctor, of course, which that's a totally different story. But I don't know much about them. But I do know, in fact, that they help greatly. And if you are on a cut, you can keep a large amount of your muscle and potentially even gain a little bit of muscle when you are in a calorie deficit if you're on steroids. And then the last group of people, and this is really cool, so make sure to listen closely on this one. People who had muscle and then lost it. And I want to tell you a story that happened to me. When I was a senior in high school, I was having some kind of back issues, and I was told to just sit in a back brace for an entire summer. And this was devastating for me because I couldn't lift, I couldn't work out. And when this happened, I lost a large amount of muscle. I lost a large amount of muscle. And when this happened and I got out of the back brace, I started to lift again, and I noticed that I almost blew up. My muscle and my strength came back extremely rapidly, and I wasn't really eating that many extra calories. I actually think I was eating at maintenance or maybe a little bit under. But this is the same for anyone who basically had a lot of muscle, then lost it, then they tried to rebuild it. Your muscle, when you build a little bit of muscle, right, in your body, there's actually a muscle cell called myonuclei that is permanent. It's a permanent change that is built when it comes to muscle. And when you lose muscle, your muscle shrinks, but that muscle cell never goes away. So the really, really cool thing about this is that you can lose the muscle, but then gain it back super quickly, because that muscle cell, which tells your basically body, hey, we know how to build muscle because we got this cell right here. It's going to help us do it. It's still there. It's like, hey, go for it. Build that muscle. Boom, you're good. So just a really, really neat thing about lifting and why everybody should lift is because there are some permanent changes that happen to where even if you're in a layoff or something, you're going to be able to gain that strength and muscle back incredibly quickly. Now, when it comes to building muscle, for the most part, or skeletal muscle, you're going to be needing to progressively overload your body. You're going to need to be challenging it with more weight, more repetitions over time, and then a calorie surplus. For most individuals, you need to be eating over your maintenance calories. If you don't know how many calories you should be eating on a daily basis, I usually recommend the NIH Body Weight Planner. You can type that into Google. That's going to give you a good starting metric on where you should go for gaining some weight and what you can do in your overall workout routine to get the most out of it. This will improve your body composition for most individuals. And the cool thing about this too, even though you didn't lose weight, because your body composition improved, you're going to gain a little bit of weight, but you might actually look like you lost weight because your body composition got better. So if you gain more muscle but keep the same amount of fat, or only gain a tiny bit of fat, you're going to basically look like a better human being, which is kind of the name of the game and why building muscle is so incredibly important for your weight loss goals. So go ahead and drop a like on this video if you learned something new. Comment down below. Let me know if you are going to be starting resistance training. I highly recommend it. You will not regret it. And just remember, at the end of the day, the best way to build muscle is with that calorie surplus and pushing yourself in the gym. But of course, we can't forget to like the video and subscribe to our channel if you haven't already. Once again, we help individuals of all abilities improve their overall health and knowledge of the gym, regardless of where they are currently at in their fitness journey. And once you're done doing that, I'm going to go ahead and link another video right here that's going to answer a few more health and fitness questions designed for beginners who are just starting out. So if you want to get the most out of your time in the gym, I'd highly recommend to check out that video. It will give you some more good insight and allow you to boost your fitness. So thanks for watching the video, and be all strong.